If you're struggling to improve at cubing or running out of motivation, then I have a solution. And better than that, it will only take a maximum of half an hour. And in this video, I will be going through that process and showing you how to do it as well. See, I haven't cubed in about 6 months, and I may or may not have made a video about why I believe cubing might be dying, which many people didn't like. But anyway, I've really struggled to want to pick up a cube again, and I think I know why. Basically, I got bored of just doing the same thing over and over again, and you've likely felt the same. So I've decided to try something new. I've gotten all of my cubes out of retirement, and I'm going to try and pick a new main. So whether you have 3 cubes or 200, this process will still work, and it will hopefully bring back your motivation. First things first though, you have to get rid of the last cube that you mained, and for me this is the GAN 13 maglev. If you don't do this, then the entire process is pointless, so this is gone. Then what you want to do is shortlist a maximum of 5 cubes that you think suit you the best, and that's what I'm going to do now. To begin, we have all of the GAN cubes. Now this is a really old GAN cube from ages ago, hence why it's stickered. The magnets in this one aren't very strong and it just doesn't suit my turning at all. So for that reason, I'm getting rid of this cube. Next is the GAN 356 XS. This is also a cube I got quite a while ago, and whilst I do like it and did really like it back when I first got it, I feel that there aren't enough adjustments to be made in this cube for it to be good enough to main. The next cube is the GAN 11M Duo. Now, considering the GAN 11M Pro is coming up next, I'm going to get rid of this cube because it doesn't have as much adjustment. So that brings us to the GAN 11M Pro. This is UV coated, so it suits me the best. And I did really like using this cube back a couple of years ago. I feel like this has got as many adjustments as a cube needs, whilst also having a little bit of weight, which some of the newer cubes have gotten rid of completely. So for that reason, I'm going to shortlist this cube for later on. Okay, so next we have my 2 GAN 12 Leaps. This one is UV coated and then this one is frosted. Personally, I think that UV coated is always better, so the frosted one is out anyway. But for this one, I feel this is too similar to my GAN 13, which I used to main, and I want to try something that's different to that cube, so I'm going to say no to this one. Next we have the X-Man Tornado version 3. It's quite dirty because I haven't used it in a while, and I haven't actually mained this cube before, but I do really like how it feels. I think that the turning style is refreshing compared to some of the other cubes I've mained before, and so for that reason I feel with a little bit of setup this cube could be quite good. Next up we have the X-Man Tornado version 2. Now considering I've already put the version 3 in here, and the fact that the corner cutting on this isn't very good, I'm not going to shortlist this one. Okay, that's the first row of cubes done, and now we have the WRM 2021. I do actually really like this cube. I think that currently the magnets aren't very strong, but with some setup, I think this one has a very strong chance. So for that reason, it's going in the yes pile. Okay, next we have the RS3M. This is probably one of the best selling cubes of all time, but because it's so cheap, it doesn't have as much technology as other cubes, such as there's still a spring in here and the magnets are not adjustable. And for that reason, I'm not going to choose this cube. Okay, next we have the YS3M. Now, I know I just said no to the RS3M because of not being able to adjust magnets and having a screw in the core, but I do actually really like the feeling of this cube. I think that it's more dry and crispy than other cubes and quite a click when you turn, and I like that. So I'm going to put this in the yes pile. But now let's move on to the Mortri Tianma. I do like this cube, but I think that the magnets are a little bit too strong and it's quite loud. And for me, this is something that gets on my nerves if I use it too much. So there's a no. Next up, we have the MS Cube MS3 version 1M Enhanced, I think, if I've got that correct. I don't really like this cube because of its clackiness and it's a bit too slow for me. So for that reason, I'm not going to pick this one. Okay, now we have the Dian Tengian. This is one of my favorite cubes of all time, just because of how it sounds and how it feels. However, it is quite old, and that means that the technology is very basic. And I already consider this cube quite flimsy, and that's not something that can be changed with such a bare bones system. And so I'm not going to pick this one. Now we have the MGC Evo, and I do quite like this cube, especially considering how many adjustments I can make. For me, being able to adjust magnets is quite an important point. It's not an absolute must, but considering this cube has it, I'm going to say yes. And that takes us to the 5 we need to shortlist. So these 2 cubes, the Solar M and the GTS 2 2M are a no. I don't really like these cubes anyway. This one's too slow and this one's too horrible, so these two are not selected. Okay, so now we have our 5 shortlisted cubes. We are going to move on to phase 2. This is essentially the setup stage where we do lubes and tensioning to make the cubes as good as they can be before we battle them to find the best one. So this is going to be pretty simple. All you do is do a couple of turns, find what you don't like about the cube, and then tune it to make it better. For this gang cube, I think that the corner cutting and the tensions are quite good, but it's a little bit slow, so I'm going to add some faster lube, and for that I'm going to use Cubos Rapid, which you can get at speedcubing.org, link in the description. Just a small amount of this lube is needed to speed up the cube, so that's all I'm going to put in. As you can see, there is just a little amount on that piece. So now I'm going to break it in to see if I need to add any more. I always like to put less in to begin with and then add some, because it's so much easier to do that than take it away. Okay, so the lube's now all broken in, and I think this cube is set up as good as it can be. Right, I believe that the rest of this is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm going to move on to the solves. I recommend 10 per cube to get a full idea of how they feel and how you perform on them. And I'm going to switch to voiceover to give my opinions. So first we have the GAN 11M Pro, and this was all round not too bad. The corner cutting is always good on GAN cubes, whilst also being very stable and controllable. However, I think that the fact that this is a GAN cube means that it wasn't exciting because I know the feeling very well. Next is the WRM, and despite setting this cube up, I still struggled with stability when trying to turn fast. This means that I locked up a considerable amount and overshot a lot of turns. Therefore, in general, I didn't enjoy cubing on the WRM because of how many mistakes I was making. After that, I tried the YS3M. The significant downgrade to this cube is the lack of customizations on the magnets. This means that whilst I enjoyed the dry, stable feeling, I wasn't getting enough feedback from the turns when one was completed. This meant that I found myself messing up quite a significant amount. But onto the MGC Evo. This cube was similar to the WRM, but just so much less stable. A combination of having a fast cube and slightly weak magnets made this one hard to get used to in such a short amount of time. I am now understanding why the corner magnets in GAN cubes are so good, because they ensure a stable cube at all times. However, the X-Man Tornado might be able to change my opinion. This cube felt perfect, stable all the way through whilst having fast turning, and despite a lockup on the final algorithm, I even got one of my best times ever on this cube. And so with that, I felt the most confident and got the best times on the X-Man Tornado version 3. I actually really enjoyed solving this cube because of how smooth and fluid it was, whilst also having good stability. And so if you are demotivated or stuck in cubing, try this method with all of your cubes and hopefully it will get you to enjoy the hobby again. If you found this video useful, leave a like, make sure to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.